If just the idea of learning a score makes you a little bit nervous, don't worry, you're not alone. But by the end of this video, you'll have my simple technique for being completely memorized by the end of the week. Hey Visionaries, I'm Jordan Hable, and here at Visions, we are all about helping you become the confident, compassionate drum major who is going to keep changing lives beyond your time in front of the band. But today is all about helping you memorize your scores. I reached out to Visions graduates and asked, what was it about when you were a drum major that made you feel nervous going into band camp? And here's what Dalen said. What do I need to be able to do to remember my cues and the music? The good news is you don't have to completely memorize your score. Remember, your job is to keep the band on track, and that means memorizing parts of your score. So today, we're going to use something called the timeline method as an example to show you how to do this score study. I'm not a composer, but I am a dad, and so I hope you enjoyed the title and can roll your eyes in teenage fashion at my horrible dad joke. So let's dive in and learn how to do the timeline method. This method is effective because it's broken into two parts. Part one is what you're going to do on the field. And part two is how are you going to study your score? There are 5 ways that you're going to mark this up. Number 1, write in the numbers. So these are all of the boxed rehearsal numbers. You may also want to write in the set numbers if they correspond here so that when your director says set 5 or whatever it is, you can quickly look at this timeline and know exactly where to start. Next, we'll write in time signatures. So 2 groups of 4/4 and 2 groups of 5/4. Next, we'll write in measures. So here we're going to write 2 groups of 4 and 2 groups of 5. The key here is this is chunking up your piece. And so now you're not memorizing every single measure. You're memorizing what the chunks are, so there's less overall to think about. We'll write in our tempo next, 96, and quarter note equals 160. And then finally, anything that has to do with a roadmap. So in this case, it's a caesura right before measure 9. Okay, this is the place to start. And I always like to say that simple is better. Here, what you're going to do is sing through your music and use this as your guidepost. You can have your score next to you and you can have this next to you and look through 4 measures at a time, 1 number at a time, 1 chunk at a time, and start singing through. Because if you're going to be able to sing it, then you're going to be able to have it memorized. Only after that, then we can move into the next part. Having everything ready on the field side of it is just about being consistent. Having everything on the score study part is inspiring confidence in the key parts of the music. So next we're going to mark cutoffs. Here we'll mark just in parentheses what measure of the chunk it is. So at measure 5, this is the first measure, a -1. That means we're cutting off the sound stops on beat 1 of measure 5. And then the next one at the end of the song on measure 5, -4. Next is cues. So here, similarly, we're going to write in parentheses and the chunk starting at measure 9, the third measure in parentheses, beat 5, cue in the flutes. Then we're going to do dynamics. So here we are crescendoing between 1 and 2 in parentheses in measure 3, a subito piano, measure 3 to 4 of the second chunk, crescendo, measure 4 to 5 of the third chunk, decrescendo. Even with this really simplified method, none of it matters if you make the same mistake that I did during my worst performance as a drum major. Check out how to avoid it here. High five.